Hi, I'm Matt Ives, and today I'm in Playa del Carmen, and I want to talk about remote work and making it work and how to make things succeed when you have remote staff members on your team. When you have remote team members, you just have to manage things differently than you would within that office staff. So one of the keys to making remote work is to incorporate your remote staff into your morning stand-ups. If you're not already doing morning stand-ups, they're a very popular and effective management tool where your team stands together for about 5 minutes every morning and people go over what they're going to be working on that day, what they're stuck on, what they're concerned about, what they're not concerned about, and maybe share a few wins. And this is a very powerful practice, but it's particularly powerful when you have remote staff because it kind of brings everybody together and they can all understand what's going on as a team. So obviously when people are remote, you're going to be bringing them in via video, and it's up to you whether you want to have everybody join the stand-up via video and do just a big Zoom meeting with the Brady Bunch, boxes with everybody talking in a group on a screen, your in-office people as well as your out-of-office folks. Or you can do a hybrid where you set up a conference room, you have a screen and a camera in the conference room, and folks are joining either in person or via remote. I actually prefer the everybody on camera technique. It makes the stand-up actually easier for everyone to start. People are at their desk, they have their materials right in front of them of what they're working on, and it saves even those 5 minutes you spend chasing people and getting them into the stand-up. But however you do it, it's a really powerful practice. It's a powerful practice in any company, but when you combine it with remote working, it's really powerful. So there's a real temptation when you have remote staff to move a lot of your communication to nonverbal, to do a lot of Slack, a lot of chat, a lot of email. And I encourage you to make sure that verbal communication is still part of the program, a very important part of the program. Be doing that verbal communicating, whether it's phone calls or video chats frequently. There's a lot that's communicated in verbal, and it's just a lot more efficient than written communication. Don't get me wrong, you guys are going to be on Slack all day, but that spoken communication is a really important part of what you're doing. The other key to making remote work is to impress upon your remote staff that they have to be promoting themselves, that they have to be sort of asserting themselves into the company. There's a little bit more of a requirement that they promote themselves in the company. They should be on Slack saying, hey, good morning guys, I'm at my desk. Hey guys, I'm going out for a coffee, I'm going out for lunch, I'm picking up my kids, I'm back, I'm working another hour tonight. Because you don't see people come in, walk out, and so forth. And so it's just a really important that they sort of be promoting themselves in the company. Your in-office staff are going to have a lot of opportunities to impromptu promote themselves. They're going to bump into you at the proverbial water cooler or the bathroom or in the parking lot and get a chance to chat about their day or concerns they have, or just communicate how they're feeling, how they're integrating with the culture, how they're functioning in the organization. Your remote staff are going to need to sort of actively, intentionally bring that forward in the virtual world. So they're going to have to be able to talk about their day on the chat and promote themselves, and just recognize that that's sort of something they have to be mindful and conscious about doing, that the rest of your in-office staff, it just happens organically and they don't have to think about it. The other way to make remote work is to bring your remote staff into your office in creative ways. I have one client who does yoga once or twice a week in their office, and they actually do it on the webcam and invite their remote team members to do yoga in their home offices and participate in that. I think that's a great idea. If you go out for drinks after workday, why not FaceTime in one of your remote staff, even for 2 minutes from the bar. Hey guys, we're having a drink, cheers, and your remote worker can say hi and so forth, and just take those little creative steps. Yeah, I know it's a little weird, but take those little creative steps to sort of continue to integrate your remote staff into your team and almost pretend like they're not remote and pretend like they're really there with you all the time. Or even just take a picture of what's going on and stick it on the Slack channel whenever there's sort of a get-together or something like that. This kind of comes back to communication and verbal communication, but when ad hoc meetings happen, when a client phones out of the blue, or when you guys sit down and start just talking about an issue with a client or an idea or something like that, take that second and say, hey, should we dial in Miguel, or should we dial in whomever on our remote team to be part of this chat? Or if that's not possible, or you forget or whatever, right afterwards, just ring them up real quick, say, hey, we just talked, and here's what we talked about, and do you have anything to add to that? It only takes 30 seconds, but it just shows your commitment and the organization's commitment to making sure that your remote team members are part of the team and keeping them integrated. The other thing that you're going to have to do, probably more at first, is draw ideas out of your remote staff. There's a little bit of a shyness that often is the case as you get going. That's true if you think about it anytime you start a new job. And when you start a new remote job, there's a tendency for that shyness to just continue perpetually into the future, because you kind of start out shy, and you kind of start out shy as a remote worker, and then that just becomes your role in the company. You don't speak unless spoken to. You're not putting your ideas forward. You're not challenging the status quo. And so as a manager, it's your job to sort of say, hey, Miguel, what do you think? Is this the right way to do this? Is this how you would do it? Can you think of a better way to do it? Do you agree with the plan? Can you think of a better plan? Why didn't this go well? Do you have ideas for how we could do it better in the future? I know that you want all of your staff to be doing more than just the tasks they're asked to do, but to be thinking around the tasks at what else they could be doing, how they can improve processes, how they can prevent problems in the future, how they can increase efficiency and productivity and delight customers more. And sometimes remote staff in particular don't feel permission to bring that forward, and you need to encourage them to do that. And you really know you've made it when your remote staff are actually fighting for their ideas. They're not only putting forward their own opinions, but they're advocating for them and not dropping them when they really believe in their idea. You're going to need to power through the language barrier. This is so important. So even if your remote worker speaks English very, very effectively, it takes time for them to be able to speak your language effectively. Every organization has its own jargon, its own terminology, the way they talk about things, the particulars of various clients and staff, and it takes generally at least 3 months before your staff are really fluent in your corporate language. And at the beginning, it can be very frustrating. You will communicate something, you'll say something, and then you'll come to find out later that your team member really didn't understand what was being said, and then you can get frustrated and say, well, why didn't you say something if you didn't understand? And the truth is, they thought they understood. They heard something different. And so early on, you have to take that extra step of saying, hey, would you mind explaining back to me what you heard? It's okay, it's not condescending. They don't want to not understand what's going on. Nobody wants to spend 5 hours working on a project that's the wrong project just because they didn't want to spend 5 minutes to better understand what was going on. And sometimes when someone's new to an organization, they again don't feel the freedom to assert themselves and say, hey, can we make sure I've got this? And so that's another piece where you have to kind of draw that out of them and say, could you explain to me what you understand to be the case here? And just make sure that they've got it. And then you might think, well, I can't do this every time. Every meeting is taking 2-3 times as long as it should. I don't have that kind of time. It gets better. It really does. It'll be bad the first month. It'll be a lot better the second month. It'll be a lot better the third month. And by the fourth month, you'll be fluent and communicating as a team just like anybody else in your office. Travel. Travel is absolutely a great way to make this work. Go visit your team in remote places or come to exotic places like this. Go to the beach, meet your team at the beach. There might not be the time and the budget to bring them out to you, but they might be able to travel to the beach, and you can travel to the beach, and you can get together as a team and hang out there and get to know each other and do some team bonding and do some remote client meetings and everything like that. It's an effective way to get together. Ultimately, I would love to see you bring your remote staff into your office. I'd love to see you go visit them in their towns. But at the very least, meet in the middle, get together. It's just so fun, and it's a great way to have a tax write-off and go to the beach. So this one's kind of difficult, but one of the most important keys, especially when you have a remote staff member from a more developing country and perhaps a more challenging background, is no special treatment. And that is so critical to making this work. Your remote staff most likely will have much better excuses for showing up late for work, for missing days of work, or for being tired or things like that. But ultimately, you need to hold everyone on your team to the same standards and work with them all on the same level. It's sort of a slippery slope. Ultimately, everyone playing this game wants to really be at the same level, operating as a professional and knowing that they made it at a U.S. company. And if you sort of play the special treatment card, you're going to set a precedent that's difficult to walk back. Yes, you know, it's more difficult to get through the day in some parts of the world than it is in your town, but that doesn't change the fact that this is equal pay for equal work. It's a real job, and the expectations should be more or less the same across the board. And ultimately, everyone on the team, especially your remote team member, will respect you if you hold to that standard. Lastly, just the little things. Engage in each other's lives. Learn to watch soccer if that's what your remote team members are into. Talk about the sports that you're into with your remote team members. You might be surprised to find out that they're watching the games you're watching. Ask about their kids. Try to get pictures of their kids. Send pictures of your kids. Talk about your pets. Share pictures of your pets. Share pictures of vacations. These things might sound obvious and basic, but they really go a long way, and I really suggest that you prioritize it.